It comes in with love. Your society is very good at training you out of it. Not the kind of love that a parent has for a child, dear one. That's beautiful. That's lovely. And so many of you are fortunate to have that. Love in your life from a partner, from a pet. So many of you are so fortunate to have that. No, I'm talking about what comes in with you, with your soul, which tells you you're beautiful. That from your soul which tells you that the next step as you grow up is to create mastery in your life. That is intuitive. That is who you are. Did you know that? If this is the first time you heard that, I want you to take that in right now. You came in with the equipment of mastery. Most of the masters on this planet, they didn't walk around saying, I'm light and you're not. They didn't say that. Almost everything a master said or told you or wrote or told their disciples was, look at me. This is what you can be. Look at me. Look at what I am and what I do. I'm a human being, just like you. This is you if you want it. You all come in, you might say, as sons and daughters of the creative source. You are a soul first and a human second. And somehow the training has been all the dirtiness of the human that cannot somehow get to God. Who constructed that for you? I want you to think about deconstructing that in your life. You are masters, the potentials of the future, every single one. Tonight, in the Circle of 12, I won't give it away completely, but I'm going to continue this in this meditation of the Circle of 12 and what you can do about it and how to proceed. Every single one of you have mastery in your future if you wish, some kind of mastery, a change of life that then will affect others around you. The beauty of love that will seem to penetrate everywhere you go like a bubble. Wherever you move, wherever you stand, people will see it's safe to be around you. It's a good thing that you're there. They'll laugh. They'll love with you. That's the beginning of mastery. When you have that, everything else is possible. Is that for you? Do you see the mastery suit hanging in the closet, dear one? Or not? That's the first step. See yourself there. See it as you. And then it will happen. I'm crying in love with humanity. And so it is.
And as we make that transition now from the beautiful message from Cryon, I invite you to open your eyes if you've had your beautiful eyes closed and bring your awareness back into your body, bring your awareness back into the room. And we're going to move now into the next part of our program. And I am super excited to learn some new things about a subject that many of you are interested in. The subject is trauma, and our guest is Maya Christel. And I want to make sure that she's there on Zoom with us. So Maya, are you there?
I'm right here. Can't wait.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, we are talking about trauma, but there's many other things that you do. So let's tell everyone about Maya Lee.
Before I introduce our guest tonight, I want you to hear a statement that I'm going to read, and here it is. It has been scientifically revealed that our trapped emotions, traumas, anxieties, and unprocessed life experiences are held in our nervous system and our body memories and are the source of everything that ails us. Did you get that? Our guest tonight, Maya Christel. I think Christabel is better than Christopher. We've been talking with her, I should know better, who deals with exactly this. This is what she does, and she's been doing it a long time. She brings us her wisdom of over 35 years as a family system psychotherapist. She's a trauma expert teaching the healing and release regarding how we are hardwired, did you get that? Hardwired to our trauma. She did her master's and doctoral work at Harvard, her postdoctoral work at the Cantor Family Institute in Cambridge, Massachusetts. 20 years ago, she was one of the first pioneers in bioenergetic medicine, neuropsychological practices, using Evox biofeedback-based technology to map how we hold trauma in our bodies and heal trauma. Now, if you haven't heard of Evox, this is something that she's going to show us tonight. I'm certain she'll tell us more about that.
And Maya works with intergenerational trauma and how we carry our ancestors' trauma and negative belief systems. I love that we have someone that really sees that connection with our ancestors and then what we have. And I want to share with you some information from Maya. Here's what she has said. Ultimately, our traumas keep our entire system in fight or flight, and our brains trying to control all of the outcomes in our lives. When we unwire the trauma, the brain calms down from its vigilance and the body moves out of fight or flight, and only then can we open the heart and express ourselves as whole and vibrant humans. So Maya specialises, no doubt you can tell that she specialises in PTSD, childhood trauma, but she also works with autism and Vietnam and Iraqi vets, also those who had physical and emotional abuse and cult abuse.
She's been an international group facilitator, healer, writer, and author, and she's been helping people unpack and write their stories for publication for 20 years. She currently lives and practices in Denver, Colorado. Maya, welcome to the show.
Wow, I'm awestruck that you got all that completely correctly.
Well, I am again awestruck that I got your name wrong.
That's okay. That's okay. It works just fine.
I know. So let's ask the first question, and then you can take it away. What led you to Evox work, and what is it?
All right. Well, those are two questions. What led me there is a kind of interesting long story, but I'd been practicing as a psychotherapist for just about 20 years. And what I started recognizing was that I kind of keep tabs on my clients over time. And I was hearing in long-term ways after they'd done a lot of work, traditional talking therapies. I did a lot of different modalities, EMDR, et cetera. I kept hearing people who wrote me emails and said, I'm still getting triggered by X, Y, or Z, or I'm still having panic attacks when I'm in traffic, or they just were concerned that, in fact, the therapy that they had done had not helped them adequately change their behaviors and have a different experience in their life. That set me on a quest because I realized that there was something missing, and I knew it must be neurobiological, but I wasn't a neurobiologist. And I took a break from therapy, which I do about every 10 years. I take a year off to just clear my head and learn new things. And I was in Seattle, Washington, taking a screenwriting course from an incredible person. And I went to the TIFF Film Festival, and it had a little documentary that no one knew about by a doctor that no one knew about by the name of Joe Dispenza. And it was this little documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know? Mm-hmm. And at the time, as many of us who saw it for the very first time, as many of us saw it, we were like, I know this is really important, but I don't exactly know what I'm looking at. So I saw it 5 times, one night after the other, right? And I realized that our neurology was the bridge to fully unwiring our trauma, and most therapies were not addressing it. Mm-hmm. So I got all psyched. I went back and thought, I can get a degree in neurobiology and I can do this. And a friend of mine said, did you know about this new technology out of Zyto Corporation that is designed to locate how we hold trauma in our nervous system, in our neurology, etc. I got in the car like Thelma and Louise with my friend, and we went to Utah, and I spent a week learning about the computer-based biofeedback program. And I stopped my psychotherapy practice, and since then have, for over 20 years, exclusively been practicing with this technology, which is very magical in many ways, to help people completely unwire those triggers that kept, cropping up after doing like thousands of dollars worth of talking therapy. And that process is called Evox. And it is about locating where we are hardwired for the triggers that create our biological response to anything that resembles the trauma that we originally experienced. So does that help a little?
It does. And now I want to know, how does Evox work? Talk us through someone coming to you. I've got trauma that I can't get rid of. The tapes keep playing no matter how much therapy I've done. How would you then work with that client with Evox?
And also, it's do I get this right? Is it a voice map?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So essentially what's really great is it takes all the power and puts it in the hands of the client, which I think is really incredibly important. So a person comes in and says, one of my first clients I ever had said, I have these just wicked panic attacks every time I think of public speaking. And I really just want to be a stand-up comedy person, but I can't even get in the car to go try out for anything. And so I could say, I'd like you just to talk for 20 seconds about what you're afraid of regarding public speaking. And in 20 seconds, her vibrational frequencies, when her intention is focused on what we're talking about, which is panic attacks about public speaking, it creates a map. The map identifies where, in fact, the person has something sort of stuck as a storyline, and I call it a storyline, through experience in their neurology. So I could start just working on trying to find the vibrational frequencies, which are provided by the computer program, to unwire the hardwiring to her particular fear. But what my belief has become I'm very staunchly devoted to this belief, is that probably 99%, her fear of public speaking isn't current. It is rooted somewhere in a family system, in a previous trauma, like being at school and being bullied and laughed at when she gave a speech, let's say, or a parental problem. So what we do is we map the entire family. I map everybody that they are genetically related to, because more often than not, even though there might be current traumas in a person's life, those traumas are simply outgrowths of usually collective family trauma. And up until the last 50 years, nobody was working on trauma. Nobody even really knew what trauma was. And so our parents and our grandparents were not really educated or concerned with doing anything but moving past trauma. And we didn't understand how we pass it genetically to the next generation. And half the time, if not more, most people's traumas are undoing the traumas of their parents and their grandparents.
Wow.
Is this something where you can work with children? So if parents, because I know parents that have children, young children, that have trauma. And
right. Well, it's such a good question, because I used to say, because I work a lot with the spectrum and autism and Asperger's, and a lot of times parents would come in and they would say, Joey has a problem. And I will say, well, I don't want to talk to Joey yet. I want to learn about you and how you have taught him and how you have been parents to him, because it's usually a systemic issue. And so right now, it's always incredible. Let's say if a couple comes and says, we're each going to work on how we hold trauma in ourselves, and take responsibility for changing that so that we can have a better marriage, a better relationship. But it is awesome when, like right now, I have two families, father, mother, son, and mother and two daughters, that are all working on family trauma and personal trauma at exactly the same time. And that's when we move into a very quantum conversation of how we are very entangled energetically with our close members of our family, loved ones, lovers, husbands. So when someone comes in with a little boy, that's like you said just now, Monica, and he has some sort of trauma in school, which I'm working with someone right now about that, I work on how the mother who had a trauma in school passed her, unbeknownst to her, genetic material and memory, collected genetic material and memory up to the child. So the child is having panic attacks and isn't really exactly sure why. And that's usually because it's not completely his trauma.
What?
And what's the next steps then when you've identified this to help
Great.
unwire the brain to release it?
Great. So what the program helps identify through the voice prints where the person holds what we call excess energy in their neurology. I just call it those little stuck places that get hardwired over time. And that has a vibrational signature. It's usually a very low vibrational signature that's very wound around fear or something else. And then what happens is now the computer has a recipe card of vibrational frequencies that are very high vibrational frequencies like love and compassion and gratitude. And the person puts on a pair of headphones and they get hemisync music, which helps them sort of relax their left brain and sort of get into their emotional right brain. They have goggles on that do EMDR patterning to also allow the left brain to sort of calm down and the rest of the person be more receptive to receiving vibrational frequencies. And then there's this thing called it's called a hand cradle. I wish I had one right here. And they put their hand on the hand cradle, and for 3 minutes they are output from the computer the balancing frequencies to whatever we're working on. I give them guided imagery to do around the particular subject matter. And then as soon as they're done, they take their goggles off, they take their hand off the hand cradle, and we do a new voice map to see if anything has changed. And we do as many of those maps as necessary until we get what we call a releasing pattern. And at that point, that constitutes the idea that they are unwired at this time. And what they're left with is not the imprint of the trauma in their neurology. They're now left with the belief systems they've created because of it. And then the rest of the work is just undoing those belief systems, which is a whole lot faster and easier.
What is mythotherapy?
Okay, super. All right. I developed over time, it used to be a very linear concept that we have this bioenergetic computer-based technology. I get to be the person that sort of is running the machine. I have a client over here who's getting the benefits of the program. And it was a very linear concept until I recognized over time that it was not linear. It was an entanglement opportunity, meaning that the computer, and I'm a little out of the box on this, the computer has its own level of consciousness, in my opinion. The client has a heart that's beating and an electromagnetic field and a consciousness, and so do I. So when I realized that the quality of the work and the speed in which the healing happened was not necessarily dependent on the machine to quantify things and send out vibrational frequencies, but it was also the electromagnetic fields of both the client, my heart, and the machine aligning towards healing. Then I realized that was the true power in this modality.
This is so empowering, and it must be just awesome seeing the transformation that takes place. I'd love to know some of the more memorable transformations that you've witnessed.
Oh, I mean, I could talk about just any subject, from Iraqi vets who probably would have died to them being able to feel love again and release anger and knit their families back together.